What's going on, guys? My name's Theoatrix and welcome to my complete Nightmare Zone guide. The Nightmare Zone is an activity where you refight bosses from quests. This video covers everything you need to know to effectively train your melee, ranged, or magic within the activity. And I'll also show how to get the most points per hour, as well as the highest XP rates. To be able to partake in the Nightmare Zone, the only real requirement is having completed 5 quests that have bosses. There's a lot of quests that fit into that category, but the recommended quests for training are those on the screen right now. Most of those quests have fairly low requirements and are doable on mid-level accounts. In terms of combat stats, having at least level 60s is the minimum recommended level. Having level 43 prayer helps tremendously with getting started in the Nightmare Zone, since you don't instantly have access to absorption potions, although 43 prayer is not fully required. Once you've completed 5 applicable quests, you can use the minigame teleport menu to teleport straight to the Nightmare Zone. In the Nightmare Zone area, there's a few key features. Outside the main area is the rewards chest, where you can spend your points for rewards, and I'll talk more about those at the end. The NPC wearing the green clothing is where you begin a Nightmare Zone game, but this requires money to be in the coffer. The coffer is the small money bag on the border of the closed off area. The potion in the middle of the area is where you pick your bosses and enter the Nightmare Zone. So you talk to that NPC to begin a game, then you click on the potion bottle to select the bosses and enter. The last feature is the potion barrels on the left, and these are absorption, overloads, super magic, and super ranging potions, which are all bought with reward points. Usually, the best strategy within the Nightmare Zone is to use absorption potions to stay for a long time. But when it's your first time, you won't have any points to buy absorption potions. So initially, you should use protection prayers against melee-only bosses to earn your points. When using the Nightmare Zone, it's best to select the Rumble game mode, which is just an endless run of monsters until you die. You can select a customized normal rumble or a customized hard rumble, and I would suggest choosing hard if you have at least 60 in the combat stats. Hard mode monsters give a lot more points, so if you can, on your initial Nightmare Zone run, you should select hard mode and aim to select these bosses. The bosses on screen are all melee only and are from fairly easy quests. In terms of armor and weapons, you should bring your best melee strength gear possible, and the obsidian set with an obsidian sword is a decent option. You should also bring a special attack weapon, like a granite maul, to use with the power-ups. So inside, with prayer potions, you can AFK for around 5 minutes at a time, but if you want the fastest points, it's a good idea to go for the power-ups, including recurrent damage, Zapper, and Power Surge. Now, to get the best experience at the Nightmare Zone, you need a Theoatrix gaming mousepad. There's a broad range of old school designs available, with fast shipping within the United States. You can save 10% off any order with the coupon code NMZ, so head over to theoatrix.shop or click the link in the description to get a mousepad today. Next up is how to get the maximum points per hour within the Nightmare Zone. For this, it's recommended to have at least a few points already so you can buy overloads and absorption potions. Otherwise, this method is very difficult. In terms of quests, the more quests you've completed, the better. And this is because the amount of points you get for killing a boss is dependent on how many bosses you've selected. So the more bosses you've enabled, the more points you get per kill. On the screen right now are the best quests you can complete to get the maximum points per hour. And when entering the Nightmare Zone, you should select all of these bosses to get the best points. In terms of armor and weaponry, using full Theoatrix on 1 hit point is a great option if you have a high hit points level. Otherwise, your best melee combat gear is good enough. And you should also bring a range switch, where a blowpipe is a great option. You can also bring a special attack weapon, and you also need ice gloves if you've selected the Desert Treasure 1 bosses. Inside, your strategy is to prioritize killing the Dream Mentor bosses first, as they give the most points. But there are monsters that interrupt your combat or freeze you, and you should target those first to stop them from interrupting your attacks. Those include Agrith Nar, Giant Rock, Dad, and a few others. Next, I'm going to show you how to get the fastest XP per hour. For this, it's important to have a few certain quests completed, since some quest bosses have XP boosts. The best bosses you can select for the most melee XP per hour are the Trapped Soul, King Rolled, Headless Beast, Moss Guardian, and Arg. For ranged, there's a few extra bosses you can select with low range defense. And for magic, they're pretty similar, except for the Lunar Diplomacy boss. In terms of armor and weapons, for melee, using Theoatrix will give the highest XP rates. Otherwise, you should just bring your best strength bonus gear. With melee, you should also bring an Ornate Granite Maul, and if you can afford it, Dragon Claws are used to give the highest possible XP rates. This is because you can use a Dragon Claw spec and a Granite Maul spec at the same time, and while you have the Power Surge power up active, it constantly regenerates your special attack. For armor and weaponry for ranged, the Venator bow is the best to use here, since the monsters are close together. You can also use super ranging potions from the barrels outside the activity. With magic, using spells up to Fire Surge on the regular spellbook is a decent way to train. Ancestral is the best in slot. However, using Void Mage is still very effective. If you aren't using a saturated heart, you should be using super magic potions. Now, most people train at the Nightmare Zone AFK, and right now I'll show you all of the AFK methods in there. In terms of quest bosses, you should select bosses that don't interrupt your attacks and bosses that are weak to your attack style. Having a rock cake or a locator orb is a big must for some of these methods, and these allow you to lower your health down to 1 hit point, and while you have an absorption potion active, the monsters can only hit once. The first AFK method is AFKing with just absorption potions, or you can also add overloads with the absorption potions to get higher XP rates. With just absorptions, it's possible to AFK for 10 to 20 minutes before needing to sip more absorption. With overloads, you can only AFK for 5 to 10 minutes. The most AFK training method in the Nightmare Zone is done with the Guthan's armor set, which has a chance of healing you. With this, you don't even need absorption potions, and you can AFK for 20 minutes at a time. After 20 minutes, your character stops attacking, and you eventually die and log out. You can also AFK with full Justiciar armor, and since it has such a high defense bonus, you can AFK for 20 minutes with absorption potions. With Justiciar, you can also use ranged to AFK for a long time. To finish off the video, I'd like to talk about the rewards. There are 3 good rewards at the Nightmare Zone. There's item imbues, herb boxes, and redirection scrolls. You can imbue a number of rings at the Nightmare Zone to improve their stats, and you can also imbue the Salve Amulet or the Slayer Helmet here as well. The cost of imbuing decreases if you've completed the hard tier of the combat achievements, and that halves the cost. Herb boxes cost 9.5k points each, and they're a decent way to make your money back from the Nightmare Zone. The average loot per herb box is currently 14k, but you can only buy 15 herb boxes per day. Redirection scrolls cost 775 points each, and these are used to redirect house teleport tablets to different house portals, which is excellent for tree runs. Anyways, that's my complete Nightmare Zone guide. If you missed something, there are timestamps to every section in the description below. If you enjoyed this guide, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more old school content. Check out theoatrix.shop to get a gaming mousepad and use the code NMZ to get 10% off anything. Thanks for watching.